If you know a few licks in open D but struggle to come up with your own, then this lesson can help. I was definitely there, and I'm going to show you a simple framework that helped me to create bluesy phrases on the spot, and I think it can help you. We can stop recycling old patterns, old licks and phrases, and we can come up with fresh licks on the fly without overthinking things. Let's dig in. Before we go further, make sure you grab my free 5 Simple Steps to Better Slide Guitar in the description below. Today's lesson, we're going to focus on where to play, but that guide is going to help you make sure your technique is solid so that everything you learn is going to sound better. But as far as breaking free from those rehearsed licks and playing on our own, we need to know where the bluesy notes live. It's the foundation that everything else builds upon. If we're looking for some bluesy notes, we can look to the minor pentatonic scale. And since we're tuned to D here, it makes sense to look at the D minor pentatonic. So let's map that along the first string, starting with D, our open first string, the root of the scale. Move up to the 3rd fret for the F note. That's the minor 3rd. Up one more, a full step. That's going to be our G note, or the perfect 4th. Up another full step to A, that's the perfect 5th. And then up a step and a half to the 10th fret, that is our C note, or the flat 7th interval. And the final of the 5-note pattern that we need for the minor pentatonic scale. We usually end on the next octave though, which is at the 12th fret. That's a D note as well. So what we can do is take those notes, focus really more on the notes here, D, F, G, A, and C, and find them anywhere on any string from the open string up to the 5th fret. Now there's definitely a lot of value of going up here and playing above the 5th fret, but we can do a whole lot by focusing our efforts to this section of the fretboard. And check out what happens. We already know the first string, minor pentatonic scale notes are the open, the 3rd, and the 5th here. If we switch down to the 2nd string, then we have the open, that's A, that's cool because it's in the scale. Come up to the 3rd fret, that's the flat 7, C, and then D at the 5th fret. Always make sure you know where the root is anywhere on any string, right? So there it is on the 2nd string, there it is on the 1st string. But the cool thing is we now have open, 3rd, 5th frets, open, 3rd, 5th frets on those top 2 strings. So we don't have a lot to remember. We just play there. And we've got the notes from the D minor pentatonic scale. And what's cool about this is because this is a D, we also have a 4th string tuned to D and the 6th string tuned to D. Those are also the minor pentatonic scales also found at the open, the 3rd, and the 5th on those strings. And the 2nd string has a tuning pair as well. That's the 5th string. So anything we did on the 2nd string, we can do on the 5th string. Open, 3rd fret, and the 5th fret. So that takes care of all of the strings just by learning this on the top 2. That is, except for one string, the 3rd string. If we play that open and try to apply our open 3-5 move to it, you can hear just with that doesn't sound particularly bluesy. It doesn't sound bad, but it's not that dark bluesy sound that we're looking for. That's because this is tuned to an F sharp in open D tuning, and F sharp isn't in the minor pentatonic scale. But if we come up and play the 1st fret here, we can find a G note, which is in the minor pentatonic scale, and then up one more, the A, which is in the minor pentatonic scale as well. But again, that 5th fret, that's not in it. So we really only have 2 notes to contend with in this section of the fretboard on the 3rd string, the G and the A. So now we have mapped out all of the bluesy notes using the minor pentatonic scale to help us get to those bluesy notes right here in this section of the fretboard. And we can create some cool licks just focusing mostly on the open, the 3rd fret, and the 5th fret. But when we get to that 3rd string, just those 2 notes. You almost can't go wrong in this area of the fretboard. Just watch out for the third string, stick to the third, fifth fret and the open strings, and you've got your map. But just like having a map won't actually get you where you need to go, your fretboard map alone won't get you in that bluesy zone. We have to bring some blues to the map. The notes you play are just half of the story. The other half is knowing how you play those notes. And if you don't play with a little inflection, you're kind of missing the bluesy sound entirely. Let's take a look at this lick. I chose notes straight out of our minor pentatonic scale that we mapped out from the open strings up to the 5th fret. Nothing more, and basically stuck to the open, the 3rd, and the 5th, but I did have to account for that 3rd string and play the 1st and the 3rd. All right? So with that in mind, we've chosen the notes that get us in that bluesy game, but we can also take our opportunities, especially for key notes, to add some bluesy techniques. Like for instance, when I get to this F on the 3rd fret, I'm not just going to stay there. I'm going to take the slide and start with good intonation, which means right over the 3rd fret, and I'm going to push slowly beyond it. What we get is a note that goes sharp, but not so sharp that we're getting to the next fret, right? We're definitely just a little bit out in front of that 3rd fret. And it really feels like and sounds like taking a note as if you're fretting it and bending it up slightly. These microtonal bends sound great in the blues, and with a slide, we just need to push slightly beyond the fret. And the minor 3rd is a great note to do that to, especially when we then resolve it back to the root. So an open string for D here. But in the lick, I chose to resolve up to this D at the 5th fret on the 2nd string. So we're moving from that F, really connecting it to the next note, D in this case. And notice the next technique that I'm putting on this D note. Whenever we have a note that kind of rings out and lands, it's a great spot to put some vibrato on there. So all I'm doing is just moving back and forth rather quickly over the 5th fret, over my note, right? So we get that really cool vibrato sound. And you can do that in a lot of different ways. Some people prefer bigger movements. I like this real tight and controlled vibrato, but that might change depending on the scenario. The other thing that we're doing here is using the slide for what it's built for. Sliding into and out of notes. Don't forget that you can do that because that gives it its expressive quality, right? We could just play this little fragment of a lick like this, but that's not nearly as fun as sliding into that note. And of course, when you're landing, give it some vibrato. But there's another note that I want to talk about because it demands some attention too, just like the minor 3rd, and it's the flat 7. So we can bend that flat 7. It's another really cool thing to do, which is here at the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, which then means the 5th as well. And we can resolve that temporarily down to the open, or we could come up to a D, whether sliding into the D or the open string. And when we're doing that, even on the 2nd string, we have a D above it, just like we do here. So focus on giving the minor 3rd and that flat 7 some attention. Add vibrato on the roots, and don't forget that you can slide in and out of every note. Playing these notes and adding those bluesy slide techniques that get you in the game, and you can definitely hear the bluesy sound happening. But to tell a real story with your slide, we need to think about how the licks connect to each other. Great blues tells a story, and rather than just playing a bunch of random licks and stringing them together, the great players that you and I know and love use phrases that feel like questions and answers, a story. This call and response approach gives your playing a natural flow that really keeps that story going. And just like we need good technique to play notes clearly, which is why I created that free slide guide in the description, we also need a clear structure to our phrases. Let me show you one way that you can do this. We know about call and response in the blues is kind of asking a question with a phrase and then answering it, but this piece is a little bit different. We've got 4 little phrases here that work together to form a conversation, but it's not strictly call and response. I think of this first little lick as more of an answer phrase, really. Just kind of putting the first statement out there. There's nothing really unsettled about it because we landed on our root, right? We could really take it anywhere from here. From here, we're going to ask a question. And this is the note that really does it. The flat 7 here, it sets up, it invites that next phrase to be a response because there's this little bit of unfinished business with the flat 7 interval. It needs to be answered. So we're going to do that with our first phrase again. Coming back home to our D note. But once we get there, we put these 3 phrases together. The whole thing doesn't necessarily feel finished, so we're going to tack on an ultimate response here. This feels like we're finally answering the call that we've kind of set up over those 3 phrases because we're moving down through the strings, someplace new, and ultimately landing on that root. And this gives us that real sense of finality in this little conversation. If we want to get into the call and response game, make it simple and start with just a couple notes at a time. Let's take the first string, 3rd fret and 5th fret, so our minor 3rd and our 4th, and then let's take the flat 7 and the root on the 2nd string and see if we can set up a 2-note call and a 2-note response. And then of course we can expand from there. A 2-note call might be, and a 2-note response might be, right? Or maybe we can incorporate a few more notes and go, and we get a sense of that call and then the response from within a few notes. This simple structure is what makes the blues feel like the blues. We're not just playing random notes, we're saying something with our guitar. So now we've got all the pieces, we know where to find the notes, we know how to make them sound bluesy, and we know how to add a little musical structure to them. So let's see how all this works together in an example. Premium members, you're going to have the tab for this in the MyBGI library. Just look for lesson TB489. Earlier, I showed you how to create endless slide licks in open D tuning, but the thing is we spend most of our time playing rhythm, not taking solos. So watch Tuesday Blues number 484 next, where I show you how to pick up the tricks you need to make your rhythm playing really come to life. I'll see you there. Until then, practice smart and play on.